Hello, hi, namaste. Welcome to the second episode of React and WordPress integration. So, on earlier episode, we prepared this little UI using Material UI. So, in case you missed that, I'll leave the description for the video there, and you can come back here to carry on. So, basically, we have set up this very simple UI from Material UI, and we explore various aspects of Material UI there. So today we will basically be extending these card component to populate WordPress content. So the setup I have right now is I have a local installation of WordPress, and we will be using the WordPress REST API to integrate the posts on a React component basis. So that's what we will be doing today. So let's get started. So to get started, first of all, let's optimize this card component so we can better work with the API. So what we have right now is my cards. So let's set up in a way where we make a API call on our app.js, but we could pass the different props on a my card where my card would be able to, let's say, populate based on those props. So something like if it was like title is say blog title, say teaser would be teaser of the blog, and let's say link would be the link of the blog. So something very basics. We want to make our card accept these. So in order to make this work, let's set it up in a way where we can see the output pretty much instantly. So okay, so let's make it a way where this works on our my card component. So right now it doesn't accept this because my card is not aware of those props. So basically the way we make props work is we can define a props here like that. I'm sure you're all familiar with the React's basics, so I'm not gonna walk too deep into this, and you could then start using those as props dot, let's say, title, and you could use those props there passed in, but the cleaner way to do that is, since you are aware about what kind of props you are accepting here. So let's say we are accepting title, teaser, and link here. So this would be a cleaner way to do it. So we are destructuring the props here, and that makes it easier where you could instantly update those titles. So hold on, I think this is title, and teaser, so let's just skip a lot more for now. So I think let's not get into too deep about other aspects of the card. So for now, let's keep it limited to this one. So our card is now capable of accepting the props, where we could pass the property to make it work. So another thing I missed is, let's pass image as well. So for image, we'll be passing a URL of the image. So for now, let's say we don't have any image, so I think that would be just broken for time being, and we will need to accept that as well. So the image is broken right now because we have nothing passed in here. To prove you that this works, let's grab one image for one of our components, so as to say that the props works. So now our card is like equipped to accept our values that we fetch. So the next step is we'll need to be using a WordPress API. So let's quickly discuss about like how WordPress API works. So this is a WordPress site, and if you look into a WordPress API, basically you have these various endpoints where you could query the different like content from the CMS. So for instance, if this is the URL of our blog, what you could do is wp-json wp v2. So this is a endpoint URL, and if you need to grab a post, it is /post. So v2/post, you would get all the posts. So let's try to use that, see that on a postman with a get request, and see how it works. So yeah, if you do a post, you would get all of these details and get all of the content here, okay, for different posts. So that's what we would be using, would be trying to get this. So let's set up a way where we can use this. So let's define const API endpoint would be our endpoint. So let's use Axios as one of the way to make these API calls. So npm install Axios. So Axios is a fairly user-friendly package where we can make a asynchronous request to get the content from this API. You can use, of course, fetch and any packages of your choice, so no particular issues with that. Let's see, let's set up a state where we would be assigning the post as we get it. So for that, I'm sure you are again aware about the basics. So we use state, and also let's use effect. So basically, since this is a functional component, there's no any particular lifecycle hook or lifecycle functions as in a class-based component. So this is new on React, where you could use these hooks to basically mimic like what we were able to do on a class-based component. So for the state, let's say const post, and it accepts a function post where you could use state. So this would be a blank array for now. So I'm sure like how use state works. It accepts the variable and then a function. So use state actually provide both of these, and we're simply like capturing this on these variables for our later use. So post is where we would be actually using assigning all the API request response. So we are not will be able to do the request only when the component is fully loaded. So since this is a functional component and we didn't have a specific like lifecycle function here to use, that's why we are using use effect. And use effect is again a function which accepts callback function and then also accept the dependencies. So for now, if you leave it blank, it would run once the component is mounted, and then basically that's it. But you could also like define a dependency. Let's say if you define the API endpoint as one of the dependencies, at some point, if for some reason, although this is quite impractical, but just for the sake of explaining, if this changes, let's say this is not a constant, this is a variable. If this changes at some point, then since this effect is dependent on this variable, it gets mounted. It gets executed again. So that's what this dependencies is. For now, there's none, so we just want it to fire once. So that's why we are just defining it blank. So let's fire axios dot get, and we would say API endpoint as a parameter. And since this is this return a promise, so this is where we get a response. Now simply let's do console log and see what we get on a response. So let's see like what we're getting here. So let's go to a console and see. So we get an object here, and it has a data attribute and bunch of other like headers and that sort of stuff as well. Request status. Data is what we are actually interested about. So this is where actual WordPress posts are. So let's try to actually go ahead, and now since we have a response here, since we are only interested in this data for time being, let's say we set a post. Set a post. Again, this is the function that we have from the state. So we set a post on data. So basically what we're doing is like we get a data from a response, and that's what we're assigning to our post. So this would make it available. Let's see what it is complaining about. So on my card.js line number 21, I'm sure I made some silly mistake here. So line number 21. So yeah, class is not recognized by React, so it should be class name, and that's what it was complaining about. So where were we? Yeah, so we have a successful API request here, and we have a data and post. So our goal here now is just to get a loop going on here basically. So let's see, we have a post, we want to map it with map this post, which would return a callback function, and let's say P has that, and let's return some JSX here, and that is what we want here as a grid. So Yeah, we don't need it, so we just need a grid container. And here, as a part of image, let's see. Okay, we'll handle about image later on, so it has some explanation to do, so we'll get to that. Apart from that, let's say p dot, what do we get? Data. So I think it's title. Where is it? Yeah, it's title, but it is on a rendered object. So how would the title dot, sorry if I can spell it correctly, render. And similarly for teaser, let's see, I think it is excerpts, right? Excerpts. So excerpt dot rendered. So this is how WordPress API works. So if you save it, you got a excerpt and the title from the WordPress. So yeah, but however, the excerpt the WordPress API is returning has bunch of HTML, which is not ideal for our layout. So the ideal way for you to handle such kind of issues would be you'd go to a WordPress and set up for excerpt to return a particular way. But since we're not focused in WordPress side of things too much for now, let's try to see how we can fix this from JavaScript. So let's see. Basically, we'll try to get rid of all the HTMLs from the excerpt first, and also strip down the text to the amount that it works. So let's see. First of all, now since we are not just returning it, let's wrap it on a curly brace first, and we return this. But before returning, let's say let clean excerpt equals to, so this is what the excerpt is, but here we would like to replace. And what would we like to replace is, let's define a regular expression that strips all the HTML tags and replace it with blank. So this would be our clean excerpt, which has no any HTML. So let's see. Sorry, my bad. So yeah, this is where we get a response about excerpt here. We also need to cut down the length. So in here, let's serve string, and let's start with first character and say we need 50 of them, and we would also append a dot here. So yeah, I think this is what we were after. So the WordPress has now WordPress API has now provided a data, and that's what we're showing it here. One of the thing that remains is how do we get the images from the API. So if you look at the document, the way that we would like to get the images is, if we go to any one of the images and see inside of WordPress. What we would like to grab is the featured image that we have on our WordPress. So that's what we want to grab on our API. So every post has to have a featured image, and that's what we would be using here. So if you drill down here, you would see the API has a section called featured media, but the problem is you just have a reference ID of that featured media, and you don't have any access to URL link or that sort of stuff that you can access to use it in a front-end library. So to tackle that problem, what we could do is actually, so let's go to Postman to see. So in here on a WordPress API, when you define an API where you say embed and send it through a request, what the API does is, instead of just giving you a featured media, it would also get your embedded attribute, where you would have link to sections like featured media, WP featured media, and this node do have all the sizes of featured images that we need. So this is kind of little little trick that we should be using when we need featured images, at least, and the current version of API that we have for the WordPress. So that's what we will set up here on our post. And then if we go in here, drill down to data and see what we need is, we need an embedded and WP featured media, and we're grabbing the first one. So let's try to first of all, like, get it correct on our on our list. So in here, let's say let featured image is p dot embedded, and since if you look at the way that the array is built up here, the object is built up, it has a name called WP colon featured image, and unfortunately you cannot do that on the JavaScript. So what you need to do is, you basically just need to define as a string on a bracket. First of all, let's see, we are correct till this point. So let us see. I think we are, yeah. So we are to the point where we have index, so we are grabbing a 0 now, and then yeah, I think at this point now what we're trying to get is, let's get media detail, sizes, and let's grab a medium out of here. So the way we do that is media details, sizes, so medium. So that should give us the object, and here we are using a source URL here now again. So this is something like, you will have to look into the object and drill down actually how you will be using it. So that's what featured image is, and this is what we're going to pass it here. Okay, and one of the property is like, let's see, first of all, hold on, cannot read property of general. So the problem here is some of the post that WordPress has doesn't have any featured media, and that's why it is complaining like, the 0 of this is not set because we would have no featured media for that kind of post. So I think the quick fix would be to check before like accessing that. So let's set a featured media to blank, featured image to blank to begin with, and we would set up a quick if statement where we check the type of the featured media is not equals to undefined, and if that's not defined, we will not access and keep it blank for time being. So now if you look into that, so this one entry was creating a problem before, so rest all have the images. So in that case, to begin with, you could always set some of the default placeholder images which would be used when there are no images at hand. One of the complaint it is making is like, the key prop should be unique for each child on the list. So since we are doing a list for the grid and my card, it would need a unique identifier to as a key prop to set up. So that's what it is complaining about. So let's see what we can use as a unique. So yeah, we can use ID. So that's what we can set. So key equals to p dot id, and let's get rid of this, and it would stop complaining, and that's what we have. So I think, yeah, this is where you would extend it, where you can click on and create individual pages, creating a React React router. So those are all the stuff that we'll do later on the series, but then for the API point, where you would go to different endpoints and you can define different ID slog and that sort of stuff to grab the post here. So you could define you can grab the post by ID, you can grab the post by slog. So there are like different ways where you can extract the content from the API. So that would all be on the next episode. So for this one, to recap, what we have done is we have updated my card component to accept various props, and we would use that to populate the card based on the content provided. And on the app, we install Axios package and made an endpoint request where we could grab all the posts here, and then we basically have applied a loop where that can be populated. Along the way, we made some adjustment on the API call to grab the featured image, and then we also had to do some cleanup on the HTML side of things as well, just because of the way the API was sending us the request and was not matching our UI. So that's what we did. We then passed that properties to our component, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. So on the next episode, we'll probably set up pagination here, because this is the first page and there are many other pages to go, so that would be a little challenging. So either that or the router setting up the pages. So we'll see what would be the next one, but then yeah, so yeah, that's it for today. So keep watching and let me know if you have any questions or query on the comments below. So bye for now, take care, bye bye.